record this, and I hope you guys are all okay, just so people can tune in later. Open source this Mama Jamma, right? I think it's always wise to open source things and be as transparent as possible. And if we can always get better, let us know, right? That's always, it's an evolutionary process for all of us. I mean, especially in the educational space, I feel like, what if we did that? Like, what if we made it open source? What if we shared how we got to wherever we go? And eventually too, I mean, I encourage you guys, maybe as we keep going forward, let's also start to think about bringing talking and sourcing to kids and teenagers. And if they want to also jump in on these conversations, what can we create for them as well? Because, you know, yeah, we're excited about sharing our things, but I noticed too that when I even bring laughter to kids, they give me the best ideas of laughter. So I take in knowledge from them about what I can give to them and offer them. So let's keep that in mind too, is how can we include children and teenagers in this process, and maybe they want to be leaders and they want to host play shops during this event. So before we get started, I think we got some new people on board over here. Just so you guys know, this thing started with Nick, myself, and Charlie. It kind of started at first with us tackling, hey, like what some of the education, where are the blind spots in education? Where are the blind spots in educational entertainment, right? And we started leaning in, just we're all doing our own work in those spaces. You know, Charlie worked at Disney for years. Mick has been in basically the convergence of art and science, and how do you teach art and science together, and also connecting nature and spirituality and all of that. So he's an amazing artist, as you can see the stuff behind him, but he's also a scientist, and he's also a science educator, right? So that's very important. And then Kelly's in here too. She's been kind of she jumped on the coattails during the pandemic, and she's also been offering a lot of support and showing up in different ways. And she shows up for every community she's a part of, and especially with children, and especially working with families and doing a lot of science and spirituality education and social emotional learning education. She's really big on that. And Tizzle came across last week, right? If I can drop a little bit for you, Tizzle is an educator at Cal State Long Beach, but she also has been working in the spaces of bringing art education to communities, and especially the communities that are affected the most when art gets taken out of their education. And she's been facing a lot of situations that we have all shared, and that when we try to bring art education and spiritual education and alchemical education to children who need it the most and teenagers that need it the most, the administrations block us, right? They make it very difficult. They put handcuffs on us, or they just don't even allow it to pass through, unless we're coming from Google or Microsoft or whatever the heck. Facebook now is, you know, one of the biggest ones, getting their fingerprints in every school now. So we're all kind of in this space. I want to hear from the rest of you. We got Jackie, Jan. Let's start. I guess I got to go with women first. I can't help it. So Jackie, can you please jump on and share, why are you interested in this? What do you bring to the table? What's your experience? Yes, please.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So my name's Jackie Roach. I'm in the NFT and like digital asset crypto space. And I know there's a lot of opportunity with the learn to earn models and NFTs and using tokens for social reward systems and that kind of stuff. So Cosmic Labyrinth is so cool. I mean, you guys are already built out so much, and then this festival is just going to be awesome. I mean, I could see it being like a summer camp or something even crazier down the line, but I'm definitely here to pitch in, help out. It's all about being good stewards of technology for the youth and for the future. So yep, that's my jam. Thank you for including me, Indy.
And if I could just drop some more things about Jackie, it's always tough when we talk about ourselves. I get it. It's like I always miss a bunch of stuff when I talk about myself. But Jackie has also she worked with a project called Snow Dogs, where they actually created a way for, can you explain that really quickly, Jackie? What you guys did?
Yeah, sure. So we worked with the Salvation Army and a ski concierge service where we came in and taught the kids at the Salvation Army we taught their parents and the administration about digital asset management. And then we had a little 3-week course where they used their artwork to make their own NFT. And that was the access pass for the ski lessons. So it was really introducing this whole group of people to to things they wouldn't normally have access to.
Sweet. So very similar to kind of what we're contemplating here, right? With the kids and teenagers that come to this SOILstice camp, and if they engage in, we were talking about this last week, if they engage in different play shops, maybe from the different elements, that becomes an NFT possibly, and that helps them access things after the event is over. Through the summer, they can access, the digital wallet, or maybe some sort of access point to more activities throughout the summer. Just throwing that out there. That's something we could be contemplating even long term. But thank you, Jackie. That's awesome. And that experience is super valuable. Really quick, I want to acknowledge Sarissa. Sarissa's on here too. She's the cosmic witch over here. She does all kinds of cool stuff, right? Remedial magic. She's got a business.
Yeah, you're your own witch. Yeah. So that's kind of the attitude I think a lot of us put forward, and is a big basis of, all of the things that we do is teaching people the alchemy of getting things done. So forever student here. Just love seeing all of your faces. It's really good to see some good friends on here too. Jan, I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm glad to let him speak about what he does as well and his great offerings. I make tea blends, elixirs, which is basically combining all of those medicines into one palatable, delicious thing for you to take for your body. So it's basically the premise of, what do you want to feel? How do you feel now? And what do you want to tell your body to do? And I hope to be bringing a few things, some elixirs, of course, and playing with air, with your voice, and really opening that up and allowing them to have a comfortable space to speak what's on their mind in setting that maybe they're not always in a beautiful little safe container for us to play. So
nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarissa. And then Jan, please share.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thank you, Sarissa, for inviting me. I was actually just messaging Jackie because I was looking up this snow dogs online. Would love to look a little bit deeper. I run a production company and have a filmmaking technology platform that has a lot of crossovers, which is part of why I believe I spoke with Charlie a few years ago, because of another introduction from Sarissa, and just a lot of aligned stuff with what we're doing in terms of utilizing storytelling as a tool for and what you guys are doing in terms of the importance of education, especially creating systems for our children. I also coach the U.S. Tai Chi push hands team, and that is the grappling sport of Tai Chi. So it's very fast and explosive, like Greco-Roman wrestling or sumo, but its foundational practices are in the slow breathwork, visualization, and body mechanic optimization practices that Tai Chi offers. So Sarissa thought it was a good idea that I come on and connect with you guys. I'm in Los Angeles, and I'd love to collaborate in any particular way to help bring something great to the people out here.
Sweet. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you
for sure. And thank you for doing the work that you do. And I think all of us too, I just want to acknowledge all of y'all. Thank you for continuing to show up for your communities in all the different ways, and using your talents and what makes you healthy and happy, and sharing that with young people and just everyone. I feel all of you do what you do with everyone. I don't think you guys discriminate age or race or planetary affiliation. Jen, I see you're on a fireflies.ai. Are you a robot? Are you there? We don't discriminate against robots, of course,
or fireflies.
But are you able to tune in, Jen? Maybe you might be on a different system. If not, we got Charlie here, but let's hear from Mick and Kelly real quick. We haven't heard from Kelly in a bit. Kelly, how you doing?
Oh, hello there. I'll be off, have my camera on in a little bit here. We're just finishing up a trip here. Hi all. I'm Kelly. I serve in the world in a few different ways, as Indy has mentioned. I'm the founder of SOILstice, and it is a collective helping people to heal themselves and activate their superpowers in the healing arts, and do many different things. Writer. When working with children, I've done a lot of work with helping them to connect with Earth Mother. So doing a lot of drumming and singing and consciously connecting with the trees and playing in those spaces. I was venturing into doing a lot of work with summer camps and things on my own and helping teach Reiki for kids on my own. And then I came across Cosmic Lab through a various platform. And then ever since joining them, it's been a pleasure weaving with everybody. And it's really exciting to see our first event coming to life and it being in such a grand way. I expect nothing less. So it's really beautiful to see what we're up to. And it's a privilege and honor to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. And Tizzle, do you want to share anything real quick before we jump into other things? And Mick too, I want to acknowledge you. Do you want to share, is there anything you want to share before we go into like more weaving?
I'm just really excited about this union and culmination of people. And like I had put in the chat, when Jennifer, I believe, was speaking, like the woman that I like, Mama Momo, who we've been in our own little bubbles, like, yeah, we're gonna create this school. Like we're just really trusting and like we're putting all these things. And so someone had just sent her a link about a platform that is Barter. I don't know if it's Barter based, but NFT based. And like it's like a Patreon, but it's like people supporting things like schools. Like there's a music artist. Like I was reading all about it, and I was like, there are people who are using cryptocurrency to support movements similar to like what we are collectively doing here. And I'm so intrigued by it because I deeply believe, and I had another experience this week at the university where I'm applying for a grant, and my whole department, it's like $300,000. They're like, oh, we don't have time to apply for this. And I'm like, cool, I'll do it, but I can't be the primary or principal investigator because I'm not tenured. And even though I'm the only person on the whole team who wants to advocate for this, who is for the college students, I can't be principal investigator because of this. Okay. So now I have to go ask people who already expressed that they didn't have interest if they can feign interest just so their name is on it, but I have to do the work. Okay. But it's not about the name for me, it's about the students. So I'm still gonna go through this, but it's like, why? Why does it have to be like this? So I'm just really grateful to be in the midst of like mind, to understand that education needs to shift, and like being at the university level and still feeling these pains and talking to my students and having them be adults who are paying good money and then tell me like, you know, I have some professors who are like, I don't even learn anything from them. I learn more going on YouTube. So I feel like I'm paying babysitters. Like these are like I literally had this conversation last week with about 18 college students. And it's like, this is not cool. So I'm on board, I'm excited, and just really gonna, like, the students that I've been talking to with the art education department are so excited about this event. Not all of them can go because like some of them are going out of town, but the ones that are going to be here are really excited to have an opportunity to flex on the art aspect of the event. So life is good. All is well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alia. Mick?
Yeah, just very, very happy that we have this kind of proliferation of amazing people in this meeting. I'm just kind of like basking in that in that fact, right? So we've been, yeah, I'm just really excited to see the fractal symmetries grow. Yeah, so I mean, Indy already kind of introduced me. Thank you, Indy. You're always so good at introducing me. So yeah, and everybody else, I really appreciate that about you. Just amazing ability to distill the identity of the avatars of people. And yeah, so it's like getting a flower snapshot of yourself or something. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, but like Indy said, I'm really interested in the interaction between art and science, and probably going to bring in some. I mean, very much for me, seeing the unseen or helping people visualize the unseen is really a big part of it, and that goes for microscopy, and it also goes for intuitive visualization. You know, it goes from like Carl Jung and collective unconscious to seeing how cells are able to absorb nutrients from their environment and run around, and you see like nematodes in the soil and hydra and crazy fun interactions that defy our definitions of simplistic kind of dualistic human ethical definitions of things, and kind of expand us into a deeper understanding of webs of life webs. So that's a big passion of mine. And Kundalini yoga and permaculture are also kind of sources of the teaching that get infused. So it's kind of like taking on cloaks and masks depending on what public I'm with. I teach at an all-girls school right now in Pasadena, and I'm teaching STEAM, so I'm kind of like STEAM technician dude, and here with the Cosmic Labyrinth, I can be more of a kind of crazy spiritual yogi educator. So I appreciate that. Yeah,
we gotta add STEAMs to it, because you gotta add the spirituality at the end.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, like, for me, when I see STEAM, it's actually, there's 2 E's too. There's ecology and engineering, and there's also, with math, there's mindfulness. So it's 2 M's too, math, mindfulness, right? So yeah, there's, I think, I see that there's a lot of fusion here, and I also really love your avatar, Jen. Like this is kind of blowing my mind right now. This image, like, yeah.
You see his comic book.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, based on, yeah. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pulled from we also publish comic books, so it's pulled from that stuff too.
So that's an awesome segue. So let's jump into this this exercise. So what we're doing, and I think somebody said it earlier, I forgot who said it, but I love this idea of weaving, right? And we're basically weaving something that it's a blanket that we can, a cosmic blanket that we can all, get cuddle in. And I think that's important for us to understand what we're bringing to the table, but also as we kind of weave through this in the next 30 minutes or so, I encourage you guys to, if a question pops up, to ask a question. If something pops up, please share and ask it, whether it's in the chat or with each other. There's no top of the pyramid on this, right? So let's explore how we can lean into this more, and also be empowered the most in this space, because we're talking about 4 domes. I don't know if you know what Wisdom is. Some of you guys might have gone there, but there's 4 domes in this place, the Wisdom, and we're contemplating either having each of those domes be a different element, right? And there could be exercises happening throughout the day within those, or play shops happening throughout the day within those domes. And then there's outside activities outside of those domes. But also there could be booths, quote unquote booths is all yucky, right? But there could be like a circling areas all outside of the domes. And maybe those are also places that we bring in sponsors like Kiss the Ground or Farmers Footprint or any other organization. You just saw the Birdhouse, right? If there's any other organizations that can set up outside that can create a bridge to volunteer or interact with those organizations outside of the event. Jennifer, you're here.
I'm so sorry. I thought I was muted. Yes, I am. I'm joining late, but
Jennifer,
better late than never.
Oh, of course. There's no such thing as late when you're, beyond time and space. Jennifer, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you share why you're interested in this and what brings you here and what do you bring into the table?
Well, I have a yoga studio and wellness center. I've been a foster parent and mentor for 22 years. I started a nonprofit called For Land and People, and it's about bringing regenerative farming, organic regenerative nutrition, nature therapy, and alternative therapies and education to kids in at-risk and underserved communities.
Yeah, and she like summarized that really, but I mean, how many kids have you worked? I mean, how many foster kids have you worked with over those 22 years? Can you like drop that?
I've fostered 11 kids, adopted 2, but mentored many as well. So I don't even know the number of that.
and that's foster kids. So then you also have adults that you've basically fostered through your yoga studio too. Right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, yes, exactly. And I also work in addiction recovery, and I'm a nutritional therapist and a hypnotherapist and yoga, mindfulness, sound healing, a lot of stuff, but mainly doula. Yeah, I work with new families, and I love working with families and children. I also have an 8-week kids camp that I've run through the yoga studio for many years, and it's very like nature-based. We follow the elements and chakras and look at alignment, you know, for the kids to understand how they function and how they interact in the world, and how to kind of experience their feelings. And it's always fascinating how they come in and they kind of have very puzzled looks on their face, and by the time they leave, they're sharing like really deep secrets. So.
Yeah, I remember even when I went and volunteered recently, she hosted a volunteering thing at the birdhouse with, and she had an indigenous elder. I mean, he's not an elder; he was like our age.
Yeah.
Maybe he's 70. I don't know. You can't tell with some of these indigenous.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Might be 200 years old. But he taught a bunch of the foster kids, and some of them were out. They've out-aged, right? The foster system. I think
Aged
some of them.
out, yeah.
Yeah, aged out. But what was cool was they came up to me. I had a crystal on my necklace, and they really got engaged with me, talking about the crystal, talking about their astrology, even talking about some of the older ones were talking to me about psychedelics, and they like needed somebody to talk to. Like you could see that TikTok isn't enough. They want physical connection about these topics, you know?
Well, and also, I mean, TikTok gives a very watered down kind of mainstream version of all of these things. And when kids hook into someone who's got deeper knowledge and is really open and non-judgmental and really actively listening, they kind of tend to just sort of, I don't know what you call it, but I mean, just completely unravel and open up.
Yeah, agreed. Anybody have any questions for Jennifer? Anything coming up? You guys have any? Because like I feel like we basically literally have somebody who's a really powerful advisor in this space for what we're trying to do.
I am curious, how long of a process did you have to take? Because I've never thought of the idea of like, oh, like if I adopt and welcome in young people, like, damn, that's another way of like educating, but like educating in a more unsystematic way. If that's the nicest way I can call it right now. Like teaching alternatively, that's better, right? I never thought about adoption. Like what made you go into adoption versus starting like a learning center or something like that?
Well, actually, my daughter Joanna, who taught yoga at the event that we just hosted at the birdhouse, I met her because I was working in film, and I actually didn't really know much about any of this stuff yet. But I was working with a group called Holly Grove that doesn't actually exist anymore, but she was living in one of the group homes and ended up mentoring her. And I didn't really ever have an intention to foster or adopt, but, you know, I thought I could mentor. And in that whole process, I got pregnant with my oldest son. I got introduced to yoga and nutrition and homeopathy and all different things. And honestly, it was a journey that unfolded for me personally. So, and then out of that came the Yoga Studio and Wellness Center, because every time that I couldn't reach one of the kids, or I felt like I didn't have enough tools in my toolbox, I would learn a new modality. And so I kind of learned on the job, and then opened the wellness center and did it that way. But if you already have these tools and you are interested in going into fostering and adopting, it's not always the easiest route. I'm going to be honest with you. It's like you really need a spiritual path to navigate it sometimes, but it is a really beautiful way to do it. I have also been fortunate enough to host trainings and stuff for the foster agency with the foster parents and the kids, which has been really beautiful too, to open them up to another way of looking at things. But there are limitations when you're working within the system. So obviously, once you get to the point of adoption, you don't have the state or the workers involved in your business. But when you're fostering, there are a lot of restrictions. So I had to learn how to kind of navigate the system a little bit to help the kids in the ways that I knew they needed. It's a little tricky. It's not the easiest, but definitely such a huge need.
And I have to commend Jennifer, you guys. Like, you know, there's people who practice yoga and they take all this wisdom and knowledge from the East, and then they like do it to like benefit themselves. She is like the epitome, the quintessence of somebody who has taken wisdom and knowledge from another place and is transmuting that and taken to a whole nother level and evolving. And I really want to acknowledge her for that, but I hope more people understand that's how you do yoga, right? You take it a whole nother level. You don't just do the physical yoga for yourself, but you go and support the community in ways that, because you have more resilience, you can do it. So thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Andy. I just have to also say that I have to thank my teacher, because my teacher always said that you come to the mat to fill up your toolbox, but the real yoga is applying it in the world. And that really stuck with me. And so, but thank you so much.
Jennifer, on that note, I want to, because it's super important, what we're trying to do is we only have a couple of months now. And so you don't have to answer the question now, but the volley I'm going to throw at you is, we really want to make this available, this event radically available for foster kids, foster teenagers, and any kids who normally would never have access to a place like the Wisdom, or access to something like we're doing, right? Like usually this is all the Malibu kids would go to something like this, right? So we would love your support, however that shows up, meditate on it. But even if right now, if you're thinking of ways to help that happen,
sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah, happy to.
Sweet. Okay. That being said, I also wrote a note here because she has a doula vibe. I have when I was invited at, there was an Oakland high school I was invited to. I don't know how I got in, because there was a bunch of doctors and nurses, but there was a health expo at the high school, and all these kids who wanted to get into the health industry, this is like pre-pandemic, weird, right? All these kids who wanted to get into the health industry, they invited a bunch of doctors, nurses, and they invited me because I study Ayurveda and yoga. So they wanted they gave me a classroom, right? I brought my singing bowls. But what happened was, I noticed that there were a lot of young kids, teenagers, that were really, like, so many of them were interested, especially girls, were very interested in prenatal, birthing. I noticed that was an activation point. Like, there was all these other doctors and nurses, but there was a lot of activity going towards that space. So I wonder if we should have like a section or a play shop or something about doulas or about birthing. Like that aspect, whether we talk about it metaphysically, but also doula wise, like, hey, this is a direction you could go to. What do you guys think about that?
I think that could be really fun.
Right? Sarissa, what do you think? Like a play shop, and then there could be a section, if we could have some babies there too, if any mamas want to bring their baby. I don't know, something to think about.
Yeah, and I can also do my best to, and I'm sure everyone has collectively different traditions of birth. Like, for example, I know that the Zutuhila, the Mayans, like the midwives they talk all day, every time we go, they teach us too about their culture and how they gave birth. And so when you give little glimpses of different cultures, most of the time they're more similar than they are different. So it gives them a really good way to like connect to like, oh, there's so many options in the world, and connect them to their own roots in some ways, which is the best key for medicine usually. So that would be cool. I can ask around different elders and traditions of just childbirth and see.
I also know some young mamas in LA that are they're community leaders, and they just became mamas, and I know they love sharing their journey because they did it out of the hospital and we're really happy with it. So
yeah, there's a really amazing Native American midwife too that I'll ask her. She shares her traditions like a lot. There's a Sicilian woman too.
So that's a volley to you, Sarissa, if you want to take charge. Anybody wants to take charge on that, but we'll put that up about maybe a guided meditation in one of the domes, in the water dome. Charlie said water element, like a guided meditation of birthing, and then it could go into like
it could be ultimately a rebirth too, if they're like the meditation can dwell on that aspect. Yeah, that would be cool.
I can see that for the teenagers, like especially, right? Like something. Cool. All right, awesome. All right, quickly, any questions flowing? Because I'm gonna keep throwing volleys at you guys. If nobody wants to go anywhere with this. Beep, 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 beep. I've got this cosmic spaceship, but anybody has access to the panel, okay? It's not just me. It's all around us. Beep, 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 beep. Charlie!
What's up? Hello, everybody. Sorry, I was a little bit late driving back.
No sari unless you're wearing a sari. Are you wearing a sari?
Yeah. So I'm excited. I think we had some NFT conversations too, right? I think currency is a very interesting conversation to also have. If you guys didn't know, for me, I'm coming in. I'm probably the cross of like tech, gaming, and medicine, if that's not too off. And farming. Well, no, that's too early. Just some farming. But I'm excited to also bring in a board game to really kind of see if we can use the idea of gamifying some kind of curriculum to kind of help kids maybe play with the world like it's a role-playing game, and they're learning kind of how to use their own abilities like astrology and all these things that we talked about, like the chakra system and the 4 elements, and gamifying that whole experience. And I use kind of the model of tarot decks and oracle decks to kind of really create the main cards that really will get kids to really start the conversation of just thinking about words and letting them just come up with like what their own meaning are too. Because I think allowing children to kind of channel their own like ideas based on like some trigger words, it's kind of fun too. So that's the picture that you guys see there is the more of the astrology board game. But we decided to also build a 4 elements board game. And so the dome will kind of represent, I was thinking of like building the experiences to connect to the 4 elements and then making it into a game so that kids can always access it and, for future reference. And really just like a new way to get their own channel, like their own kind of divine wisdom and inspiration through this board game.
And so I think that, Charlie, thank you for bringing that up. As you guys can see, the theme is the elements, right? We're using the elements, water, fire, wind, water, as the foundation of our curriculum, the foundation of our ethos, right? Like that's giving us direction with what we're doing, and also creating balance. If we do too much stuff in the water, then we know we need to, do more in the, in the fire, right? Or whatever it is. But that being said, really quickly, I acknowledge that Jan has comic book stuff and Jackie has NFT experience. Is there an avenue here? Because one of the things, really quickly, I'm gonna throw this to both of you guys, and I want you guys kind of like jump in kind of roundtable-ish here. Maybe not roundtable, but Merkabus table here. But the question is, we would love for the kids before they come and the teenagers before they come to do some sort of like astrology, like some sort of input on our website or whatever, some sort of input where they learn about their astrology and they have to cosplay that when they come, right? And as they cosplay that when they come, they maybe have to go to different elements to develop their archetypes, right? Their astrology archetypes. And can that be NFT? Can that be comic bookish, right? Can that be like, oh, I'm a superhero, because your astrology is kind of like your superhero nature, right? Do you guys see how that can work with, Jan, with comic book, like kids becoming their own comic book? And then Jackie, with that being an NFT as well.
Jackie, do you want to, I can start with the comic book side. I'll say that if the kids, it depends on that can mean a lot of things, right? So if you mean grabbing professional artists and having them come on board, producing art around the kids, that I think that's totally doable. A lot of my work right now emphasizes taking comic book storytelling tools and applying them to video content. So like, on my other screen right now, I have we're producing a show where anybody can join the cast right from their phone, and we have a global cast right now. And so just the model of essentially getting somebody to immediately be able to tell their story within a larger story, it sounds like it's aligned with what you're talking about. So that is the route that I'm taking with my upbringing in the comic book world. But the traditional comic book route, while slower, is also still viable. So I just look at phones as a faster way to create content that can be shared, and it is far faster than actually producing comic book art. But that being said, there's many different ways to do it from an AI perspective. AI art and things like that can also work as well. So I'd be interested in Jackie's input, because if I have a large roster of artists that we need.
Yeah. So just to jump in, one of the things we ran into with working with the kids with the Salvation Army was, a lot of them, a good number of them actually didn't even have smartphones. So when it comes to them owning an NFT, how do they display that? When do they get it? And then I think, like I said, too, there's sort of this magic number of 13 years old for them to be on the platforms and to own a digital asset and stuff. So really, like, who the custodian of the wallet would be important. But that all said, I could see having like one of those outside circles that you mentioned, sort of as like a minting station. So maybe it could be something where the wallet's actually owned by like an organization, maybe even a sponsor or something. So the NFTs are minted to them, and then we can do something with them, but that's still that they're being created by the kids. Logistically, it would just be something to think about and work out, but definitely an answer all over the place somewhere.
So really quickly on that note, Mick, some of the play shops that we've hosted during the pandemic that were virtual, Mick hosted a bunch of art, meditation and art play shops. And those are really cool to see the kids just blossom. Didn't matter what age they were, what capability they were. They created amazing art after the meditations, right? And that also might be something for us to contemplate, is what if the kids, like, that's a funny thing with the art world, right? Like, what gives value, right? Well, like, what if we valued kids' art, and what if that had value? What if we generated that as value? And so that is also an option, because we could have play shops where the kids lean in to their own archetype and create their own comic book, and that could be an NFT. I wonder. Now, in that sense, right? Even if they don't have phones, right? The kids who make the art, right? For example, because some of these kids might be foster kids, let's say maybe they make the art, they don't have a phone, but that now has become an asset that they can maybe later on down the line, if it's a company, they can use that for college or for not even college, maybe online education or for something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to piggyback on that, the important thing there would just be like what wallet they're being minted to. But other than that, yeah, we're good.
So maybe that's some homework for us in the digital world for that. Like who are, and also, you know, mind you, like Jackie, you know this, right? There's a lot of people out there, but we want people with alignment, right? We don't want any baby eating, you know, CEOs.
Yes, absolutely.
This is not my realm of expertise, but as a thought, is it possible to like mint them or give them their NFT in something that was under the name but locked until a certain age, like just there? So it's like you're creating revenue for them. So it's like teaching them how to like accumulate things and assets that will be worth something for their future.
Yeah, there's some people that are kind of like adults and parents and stuff that are sort of treating them like bonds. Like you used to buy a baby a bond when they were, you could give them like an NFT or something. Sure. And actually, this is something I'm working out with my other business partner with this whole Salvation Army thing we did was getting the wallets to the appropriate custodian. So really it's just a thing of reverse engineering, like where are we going to end up and then how do we just build that in. So we can definitely get this done, but yeah, there's tons of ways to connect. And I did shoot some invitations out on LinkedIn to a few people, Charlie and Jan. So yeah, and anybody, I'll drop my LinkedIn in here too in case anyone wants to connect with me directly.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's also something to think about for the educators here. And I even encourage Jackie, you know, if you wanted to, or if you know anybody who's an educator, what a great platform these domes are, right? Because I what is it? I guess Air Element would be cryptocurrency, but it'd be cool to have for the teenagers, especially some sort of financial literacy like play shop, right, with crypto.
It's interesting because currency is usually the what's it called, the pentagram or the right? The earth's element because it's the value, usually tourist house. So it's because it's a currency that's used to exchange and to value things. So, I mean, the idea of NFT is also like, instead of having like physical terms, I mean, I guess the age of Aquarius makes everything material really digital now. So, but like the NFT allows us to make it more tangible, right? So now it's like, it's a new way of using magic today, right? This new tech, right? And to be literate in that form so that we're able to then exchange as we grow. Because I mean, everything we're doing now, kids are coming up with like, it's, you know, we're inventing it, right? So we'll need to find a way to value and create value behind it. So, you know, one of the things that we really like to do is actually self-development, right? And so it's really important for the idea of what we're thinking about is the 4 elements, then the 7 chakras, and then the astrology is really giving them kids the ability to understand how to read the matrix, basically, right? How to use alchemy, they have to use the matrix, how to read the signs of divine inspiration through the words that are meaningful to how they feel, right? All of it is the 4 elements interplaying within us. So I think it's how can we find a way to, I mean, we're basically creating a whole new way of creating currency and value, right? So one of the things that we thought about is, because in the game, the 4 elements is the material that you use, but the heart space and what we're thinking heart coins is how we create value for the things we love, right? Because we talk about this world of love, 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 love. Let's monetize love, guys. So let's figure out how to create a currency that I think kids can also be part of that, you know, because for kids, it's like in their beginning, their love is way more pure because they haven't lived into the harshness of this material world, right? Which they learn from all of us with all of our traumas. So, you know, for them to kind of be able to create value for the things they love. And then that's where like, you know, they love things that other people do. And that's how we'll be able to create value for what we are good at, you know, the new careers that's going to blossom when we allow kids to learn what they love to do instead of being told that this job makes this much money.
Yeah, and one of the things too that even with this particular SOILstice camp that's been coming up is what if, you know, that's Mick, an educator, and Tizzle and Sarissa, and we're all educators. What if, like, instead of giving kids stars, you know, like when we were in school, back when we were in school, we got stars, a happy face or whatever. What if it was actually like, oh, you came to the play shop and you came to the play shop, you get 50 heart coins, right? Or you came to a play shop and we give you a badge because you completed this play shop. We give you a badge for the Earth. You're now at Earth stimulator, or you're like, you know, it could be even, we could come up with different, it's kind of like playing an RPG game, or not RPG, right? Like the MMO game, right? Like where all, you know, World of Warcraft or any of these things, you're gaining tools, but we need those tools for real life. Like all these games are all in the virtual world, but what about gaining tools to show up in the world, right? Whether it's for the soil or whether it's for your community or your family or your friends, there's all these tools we can develop, but we can make them kind of like, we kind of make it almost, forget the metaverse, like we're doing an alchemical verse, you know?
Well, already in the metaverse, right? This metaverse is the most, you know, I mean, it's so real that it's materialistic. So I was also thinking of the idea of the currency is also a way for the kids to be able to work within their own groups and be able to create things that are probably like in service, right? Because then, you know, a lot of times, like I was thinking, what is wisdom? I think wisdom is what knowledge experienced, right? Is experiencing knowledge. And so allowing them to kind of learn things, and then how would they actually create in the world? And if that was, a lot of people wanted that or appreciate that, you know, like they could be given these heart points, right? Like create the value for the things that they can like bring to the world together as a group. So the idea of astrology is to help them understand, like kind of like a Cliff's note of like their abilities, so that they are able to lean into it as they go into the domes. You know, like if you're an earth sign, oh, try out some of these play shops. These might like give you some more insight of like what you're naturally talented at. Because I think the soil is already the game of Minecraft, right? Like instead of creating a digital world of Minecraft where you're mining the earth and creating objects, let's just show them how to use it in this world already, right? So I think there's a good way to find like that balance of using tech to support the game that we're already in. Because I think there's too much of the wanting to escape to another reality rather than using the tech to support the game that we're already in experiencing. So those would come my thoughts on NFT. And so the idea of the, also in terms of NFTs, I think the NFTs are really interesting because there are a lot of cards. So the astrology is kind of creating an avatar of what the kids are. And so I really love the idea of the days of the X-Men where you had these characters that had these abilities and you actually had stats behind them. Like what if the stats is your astrology, and then you create an avatar based on the elements, right? And so I was thinking if we were, instead of the whole astrology indie is like the idea of the sorting hat first, right? Because it's the 4 domes. So maybe when they come up with their birthday, we just give them which element, which house of Gryffindor, house of Slytherin. So we're like house of earth, house of water, house of fire. And maybe you give them colors to kind of cosplay in, and then let them come up with whatever they want to, because we want to give them enough space to kind of make it up, but give them enough guidance to kind of get in that 4 blocks, right? The theme of the 4 elements working together. And they are the heart space that's actually creating it and bringing it to life. So this could be like their uniform, right? Like when we talk about superheroes, right? Because that's really popular right now. They're wearing a costume, but usually that's kind of like their uniform when they're trying to be like the best good version of them, right? So, you know, because a lot of times that we think, oh, when I wear this, I feel protected, right? Which in Qigong and Reiki and all the magic version of modalities, it's really what you imagine creates in your, you know, invisible space, right? The Patronus charm, right, is all that. So, you know, what if we can basically gamify that experience in these cards? And then when we do workshops, this is where, like, you know, you come to my workshop, we're gonna learn music. So you get some air cards, you learn how to harmonize. Those are some, like, you know, which is basically notes you would take anyways, how to harmonize.
So now, Charlie, what I'm thinking is we can make physical cards that we can give out. So now we're creating a collectible, like a physical collectible, like Pogs, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, right, cards, physical one. And we could even put a QR code on them if they want to access it from a library or from like if they don't have accessibility to the internet or a phone, right? So they always have the physical card, but there could be a digital element for further whatever, you know, use. But they save the card, they have value for the card. Really quickly, Charlie, Ilea, you got a question?
Yes, I am curious if we do the chart information, because I've been experimenting with this in my class. Basically, having my college students share with me their chart so I can see where they have all the elements placed. And I say, like, yo, when you go to teaching, it's really important to know what your Mercury is. It's important to know what your Venus is. It's important to know, like I tell them all the things, right? And then I go, the element that you're lacking, this is going to it's not an obstacle, because I'm not trying to present it as if like, oh, this is going to be the really hard thing. But then I use myself, because my only earth placement is my Venus in Taurus. And so with that being my only earth placement, and it's in Venus, the ruler of Taurus, I'm great in that aspect, but there's also a lot of things that I lack because of that minimal earth. So I'm curious, if we're talking about like gamifying this, could there be like a bonus round or something where it's like, this is the element you're lacking, and these are things that you can do to help support and to help you with that lacking element. Do you understand what I'm saying?
This is also probably why, like, when the first, like, wisdom is kind of cool, because when you enter, it's kind of cool. Like, you enter and there's almost like a pathway before you get to all the domes, right? So there could even be like not only the sorting hat, but as they're coming through, there could be a set of mentors, guide who are like you, Tizzle, like guiding everyone to be like, oh, like this is what yours was. Okay, make sure you go to the earth stuff, and make sure you go, here's some stuff you should do, right? It's up to them to do it, but you can like guide them there, just like they need that, right? They need that personal touch.
What also helps too, when you say things like, hey, you need more earth, and they can go straight into that space and kind of go, oh, that's interesting. I did, because they'll naturally be curious, because things that we're not comfortable with is usually feels like, whoa, it's usually, like, whoa, that's interesting. That's different. We may not like it at first, but that usually it's a good trigger. I mean, this is why people always say that we get triggered. So it's a good place for that. Yeah. But I mean, I like the idea, because do you find like the kids, is that too overwhelming at first to learn all the planets, or like?
So the interesting thing about that, and I started to do it because like my vision has been like, the school I'm creating, astrology will be the foundation. Because imagine if you had just a bunch of young people knowing themselves from preschool. Holy, whew. So then I just went for it, because it's the same to me. It's the same thing that we kind of do, right? In that Michael Moore movie, I can't remember what it's called, but like that fourth grader with the bandsaw. I will never get that image out of my head, because in the United States, we would never allow a fourth grader to use a bandsaw. But in this other country that Michael Moore was highlighting, he was like, there are kids in elementary school who are already practicing their trade. And we don't do it here because we impose these like fears. When I used to teach in the classroom, I had 7th and 8th graders doing full-blown photorealistic portraits using the grid method. And students, teachers, Rhyme and Arts, like all these programs would come in and be like, how did you do it? And it's because I just told them that they could. And then they didn't doubt me. And so they did it. And they were like, wow, how do you have these 8th graders drawing at like this college level? It's because they can. But it's when we tell them they can't that they believe it, and then they don't. So with the students, I tell them like, I'm going to let you know all of your charts, but we're just going to focus on this. You are welcome to deep dive, but my role in introducing this to you as art educators is to get you to understand or to see when you have awareness of these placements. It's such like a beautiful GPS for you to navigate that classroom vibe. So you know what your strengths are, you know what the areas you kind of need some support in, and they love it. Like one of my student teachers that I'm coaching right now, her Mercury is in Cancer. She has been having a really hard time with students who are like not following instructions. Like she takes it so personally. So I sent her this article about what it feels like when your Mercury is in Cancer. She's like, oh my God, this is exactly who I am. And I said, it would be really interesting for you to try this open-hearted, emotional approach with your students and be vulnerable and tell them how this makes you feel, because that's what your Mercury does. And she was like, oh. And I was like, students really enjoy when their teachers are vulnerable and show they're human too. They hurt too. It changes the dynamic. She was like, no one's ever said that. Like, I just fit, like, basically she's finished her credential. She's in student teaching. And I'm the first person who ever told her that as an educator, it's okay to be vulnerable and open with your students. What is
blind teaching the blind, you know? Yeah, dude. Yeah. Hey, by the way, too, really quick, does anybody have a hard stop to leave? If so, you can please share, you know, before you go. I think you do. Jan, really quick before you go though. One of the things because of what you're doing with comic book and storytelling with videos, something to contemplate too going forward with what we're doing is once the kids, especially the teenagers, right, come through this event, we really want to engage them for the rest of the summer to go and volunteer with different grassroots organizations, volunteering with soil and farming. As you can see, Jennifer is doing a lot of stuff in regenerative agriculture. Mick is doing stuff in permaculture in the community in LA. I mean, we want, and that could be this comic book storytelling, the video storytelling kind of coming into that, right? So any thoughts on that, or does that see any synergy there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, we do a lot of collaborative events with other organizations. We're about to announce something with Warner Media this week, and et cetera. We'll do something with Comic-Con this summer. So it's, you know, being able to loop. The real key is activating the inner hero. You know, one of our taglines is helping 1 billion people become superheroes in movies and shows. Like, that's what we're doing. And genre agnostic. So we are really looking to partner with organizations that can help us create real world impact with the creativity that, you know, imagine if Star Wars, anyone could be a character in Star Wars, and then their actions affected the real world in a positive way, rather than just be playing in a fantasy world. So really looking to cross over, step over that line as much as possible of bringing creativity, helping someone model themselves after a hero that they want to become that hero, and then actually take action in the real world. So I'd love to explore any and all of that, as well as bring any breathwork, visualization, Tai Chi stuff that I can bring as well. So
yeah, what dome would that go in, Charlie? If you did like a superhero grappling, like Tai Chi play shop?
Usually in the fire, entertainment and like physical movement. You know, the jungle lion running here. I was actually thinking, because one of the things that I've loved doing when I do teach astrology classes is actually teach people how to make their own chart. Copy literally how to do their chart, right? I see you, I hear you. And what's great is after that, I tell them, you just signed your own contract again of when you came to this earth. That's the choice you've made. So you have to own everything that happens on that chart, to own your chart and know it, because anybody else can know it. You might as well know it first, right? So what we could do is, because I love the idea of stamp cards, like you can walk around and get like passports or like version of that where you go to different booths. So the 4 domes could be then separated into the three characters of like the 3 guardians in each of the domes, which is the 12 zodiac. And then maybe in different play shops or whatever experiences we have, like people can collect in the 4 elements. Like, yeah, I have like, they'll be like, oh, I have like for Virgo, 4 Earth. So I have to go there and I realize I have to stamp 4 times. And it really reinforces physically, their chart, and they're living it. They're experiencing like a live museum of themselves, of the inner selves. And what we're doing with a lot of these workshops is really reflecting what we've experienced as that element itself, right? So when we're coming in, we're like, hey, this is what I know. I mean, this is me as a Virgo. I do this, I do that. So that's the experience that we're kind of sharing, is really kind of guides in our own astrology. So the idea of the hero comic is this becoming your inner hero, kind of using the basis of astrology. There's also human design. There's other, I think we can go further deeper into that later on, but I think the idea of just starting with the 4 elements that builds up to the beginning of the astrology would be like a really fun way of maybe theming this and getting kids to move through the 4 elements naturally.
Jan, by the way, teaching, like I've taught a few times in the domes, it is so fun because you could create any like 360 visualization and you could teach with it. I mean, it's like, as an educator, it's like the funnest place to teach. Like nothing beats that unless you're in the beautiful like venue, you know, with the crazy views.
I mean, that sounds amazing. And Charlie, it's good to see you again. And I'm loving the idea of utilizing the space as a primer for a continuous journey. And that specifically, I love the idea of someone finding out their chart for the first time and then being put into a system that helps them create an alter ego for themselves to model after. And then once they leave that space, having a digital community that is accessed digitally to go back to and continue that journey, and then have multiple touch points over time that allows them to not only create and have fun, but to have real world impact. So I feel like if we could create that or use the models that I think we've already independently built, bring them together and actually allow the kids to do exactly that. That sounds very, very feasible for June. So like, that sounds awesome. If I was a kid, I'd freak out.
You are a kid, dude.
And I'm freaking out. Yeah, like I'm still a kid. Like, let's keep it real. Adults to most. Like, what?
As you guys can see, action figures and comic books in front of me. So yes.
Definitely, dude. Definitely.
Well, please let me know what next steps would be. I'm happy if there's some sort of shared document where we're throwing ideas or in any way, shape, and form. I'm 100% in. So just let me know what's how I can be of service.
We'll definitely keep doing this every Sunday. It's not mandatory or womandatory to come or non-binary Tory, but like we'll do this every week. It's also therapy for us, as Ilea shared last week. We need to come together and share this vision together more. But also like some of you were brought, like Sarissa, you brought Jan, so thank you for that. But like let's rally people together at this point. It's a good rallying time.
Wonderful, guys. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to jump right now, but thank you so much. I'll be here next Sunday. I'll set it in my calendar, and this sounds really, really, really exciting. And I have some ideas as well that some folks that I might be able to bring on to help continue the steps after the event. So, sounds wonderful, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Sending so much love. Thank you, Sarissa. Thank you. Love you.
Love you. Nice.
Okay, Jackie, can you? Oh wait, Sarissa, do you have to run?
That's okay. Yeah, I have to go in a few minutes because it's midday, so I have to go run to something.
No problem.
I'll make my exit quietly, but I just want to say appreciate y'all so much, and yeah, I can't even express how excited I am, and thanks for everyone who had the seed of all of this to start, and it's really, really awesome to see, the trajectory that it's taking naturally. So aloha.
Jackie, really quick, can you articulate over voice the comment you made?
Yeah, so I was just thinking, I was agreeing with Jan, like to just start off, like there's so much you can get into with human design and all that. So if we start with just these 4 elements, these 4 houses, and then construct sort of that journey that he was alluding to, where they work through the houses based on their sign. And like I said, I think it would be really cool to encourage them to like find another fire sign, now find a water sign, find an air. And then like at the end, we could wrap up something that maybe that's where they even make like, if it's this wisdom thing, which I agree with Charlie maybe said earlier, like knowledge plus experience. So maybe at the end, that's when they make this like NFT that could actually go up of their wisdom that they've gained from experiencing this whole journey or something.
I guess it could be they're making their own achievements, right? I mean, and we talk about these as core memories, right? And so they're then physicalizing it through experience and then minting it in the digital space for them to kind of have, you know, value behind these core memories that they could share all the time.
Instead of making memories, they're minting memories.
Oh, I like it. Definitely Taurus house, right? Venus in Taurus, right? Taurus house. This is all second house values, Taurus. building values, minting memories. I like it.
I like eating peppermint mints.
Taurus is food and money.
I'm betaing a program right now called Minternships. So, and it's all about like learning NFTs for teens.
Yes, that would be great. Ah, okay.
Cool. I feel like I needed a little bit of an education on it too. So I'm even excited.
That's what's so fun about this. Even Indy, like talking about teaching inside the domes, like I've never been inside one of these or anything. So I'm super excited to like, this is so cool. Like this is really boundary breaking. And I feel like educators are going to see this. Like I'm in the Northeast, so I don't get anything cool that you guys are seeing, but we're still very, you know, structured up here. But yeah, like just to see educators are going to watch you guys do this, and like it just feels like it's going to catch on like wildfire. Like why it's going to seem so natural. Like why haven't we been? And you know, this has been reserved for like Waldorf schools and you know things where people have tons of money and blah blah blah. So this is super excellent. I'm super stoked to be here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject.
No sari, unless you're wearing a sari.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's great. My girlfriend who I mentioned last week, Gwenna, who has the vegan food bank, she wanted me to ask a clarifying question. Should she be trying to, or not trying, but should she be asking people to come to speak at this event, or is it only for people who want to vend vegan food at the event? Because I was like, oh, that's a great question. I don't want to have you go and get people to speak about health, wellness, your body, all that stuff, unless that's what we want. Or are we just trying to have vendors who show up who are willing to give out food? Because based on what you were saying last week, Indy, once everybody's in, like, everything is just like, so that's why I was like, oh, I don't really know. Let me clarify. And I mean,
I think I'm personally, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but like what would make me really happy and joyful about the situation is that's the number one priority, is having food for the kids. And that's not an issue at all. Like there's plenty of full food. It's like going to like a gurdwara, like an Indian gurdwara, where like food is there. Like there's a lot of food and nobody's going to be worrying about food. That's the primary thing. There should be abundance. Okay. They should, and a lot of these kids need to experience abundance because some of them haven't experienced it, right? To be like, oh, this is what it could be like. And when you go to like certain festivals like Burning Man, right? I mean, even though you pay a shitload of money, but the original intention was that there's no money. You don't have to have money to like get stuff. Like you just go around and you just go, and there's exchange happening because there's love. So that's the intention. In terms of presenters, like if she was asking about that, I think like, and even for all of us who is on here, right? There's a reason why there's gatekeeping for children, right? Like if there's a reason, I mean, it's gone to the wrong end of the spectrum, the gatekeeping, right? It's become so that we don't even like give this stuff the kids need anymore. But there is a reason why there's gatekeeping, right? Some people, they say they're presenters, they say they're educators, but they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They themselves are unhappy. So we don't want them to be teaching kids, right? They might have a course and there may have to be a millionaire teaching courses, but they're unhappy. The kids are going to learn the unhappiness. They're not going to learn their $99 course, right? Like we need to be very conscious about who is presenting to these kids, because this is a playful space. So we need people who are very good at being playful, right? Because it's going to translate to the kids.
I love it. Okay. This is so awesome. Thank you.
Could I add to yeah, Tizzle, this is awesome. I was imagining like, even what if they you know, as kind of like part of it, there's the food is there, but there's like, you know, sharing what it is, having moments, you know, like at this time we're going to tell you what you're eating, why it's important, and like kind of even talk about all the elements that are involved, you know, but we just have that as part of like a part of the schedule. You could, you know, so it's not like one or the other, but those people who are bringing the food are also bringing their presence and their ideas to the table. And so you're eating your knowledge in those moments too. It's getting passed out. And yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, once again, the challenge is, can we bring spirituality to the science, right? So, you know, we don't want to get too sciencey and then we'll lose the spirituality. Cool. Ben, you guys, I am so full. I like wrote so many notes over here. I'm super excited. I have a lot to go and sit and meditate with this. How you guys feeling? Does anybody have any last thoughts or ideas or flow? That's a good silence there over there.
Yeah, no, this was good. This was great. Like I think everybody got you know, some good energy, and we can really kind of brainstorm some more ideas next week. I think yes, a good place. I love just the idea where we kind of all came together with the whole 4 elements and stuff.
Indy, can I ask, how long have you guys been meeting so far?
I mean, there's different circles of there's different circles of engagement.
For this dome, it's been about like a month online gathering people. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was just wondering. Well, it was so nice to meet all of you. This is like, I'm so stoked. Everyone's like such a high caliber person involved. This is really, really cool.
Yeah, that's how we roll, Jackie. Like attracts like here, you know? So you also are high caliber. So we're all high caliber together. And we're sometimes get low too. We get low caliber. We become low caliber too sometimes for fun. Much love, you guys. Thank you so much. A lot of blessings. I will post this as well if you guys want to reference this later. And I love you guys. Please have a beautiful week. Make sure you poop well, sleep well, laugh well, all that stuff. Cry well.
Love you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Blessings. Ciao.
Peace. May the force be with you.
Hey, Indy, let me catch up with you for a bit.
Okay.